In the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate, we start. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants and listeners on the direct streaming, our greetings to you all. We would like to welcome you, leaders, intellectuals, pioneers that really set the light for others through your knowledge, set the basis for a prosperous future and for the building of the homeland. Of course, big goals starts with the real value, which is the basis of all civilizations, the human being, and investment in the human resources. It is the beginning for all ideas, for openness based on cultural communication that can produce the culture with all strategies to defend the values and idea of the homeland. It is also how to deal positively and be always ready in light of the challenges of globalization under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Mr. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the Chairman of the President of the Republic of Egypt. His Excellency, the Prime Minister, opened the Cairo International Book Fair entitled The Culture and the Question of the Future. We do not want to write because we don't have other issues, but because we like writing, because one life is not enough. We would like to send our greetings to all the participants in persons and those online. It's our pleasure to have you with us in this symposium entitled Culture and Identity in the Age of Globalization and Knowledge Revolution. The Information and Decision Support Center affiliated to the Prime Ministry in Egypt has the pleasure of welcoming you all as it participates for the second consecutive time in this international book fair, and as an intellectual center that supports the decision making in order to have comprehensive and inclusive development plans and playing its role in the society, stressing that building the human being is the icon of reform and it is the basis and the objective of development. We welcome Trends for Research and Advisory. This is an Emirati center that contributes to scientific and intellectual research. It's our pleasure to have a welcoming remark by Mr. Usama Al-Johari, the assistant of the Prime Minister and the CEO of the Decision Support Center or Council. The floor is yours, sir. In the name of God, I start, Excellency Dr. Muhammad Abdullah Al-Ali, the CEO of Trend Research and Advisory, Excellencies, the experts, intellectuals from Egypt, Emirates, and Kuwait. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome the guests of Egypt to Cairo International Book Fair in its 53rd session. This is an activity that is long awaited for every year by the people of Egypt. Many intellectuals take part in order to present their products. It is the pleasure of the Information and Decision Support Center to participate for the second consecutive year in this fair with a number of publications and also contributing to the symposia, including the one that we are conducting right now. It is the fruitful partnership between the Information and Decision Support Center and another distinctive Arab center, which is Trends Research and Advisory from the United Arab Emirates, with participation of experts of high caliber from Egypt and the sisterly Arab countries. This will be of utmost importance and impact in order to achieve what we want, sustaining our ID in this age of change. Dear participants, we expect a lot from this symposium as we meet today around this discussion table on the culture and identity in the age of globalization and knowledge revolution, in order to discuss the challenges facing the Arab culture and the main strategies that can be used in order to sustain and to preserve this identity and our cultural specificity of our countries on both the local and the international levels. You know all that the cultural identity of any nation is characterized by the common values, habits, practices that characterize any nation from others. The cultural identity reflects the national character with all the different dimensions, socially, culturally, and on the level of the economy. Of course, we have the challenge of the globalization. So let it be an Arab globalization. We have common elements and we need to capitalize on successful experiences of our peoples and our countries, capitalizing also on the fields that we could achieve good results in order to deepen up our Arab identity. As you know, globalization is all in all fields of life. And this is quite expected because we live for 2 years now a globalization of a pandemic that hit all countries of the world. And the focus of the world now is on how to deal with the pandemic and how to recover. This requires the will and the real belief of the importance to shifting to a modern Arab homeland with an Arab ID that can make the Arab world effective in the world at large. Dear participants, the Egyptian ID is not separate from the Arab ID, and we need to sustain it against any negative changes resulting from misuse of technology. And this objective cannot be achieved had it not been for the efforts of Egypt and the Arab countries. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for being with us in this symposium, capitalizing on originality and modernization. And we look forward to more cooperation with our colleagues in the Arab world, especially our partners at Trends Research and Advisory. And I hope that this symposium will contribute to this endeavor. Thank you. Thank you, Ustaz Dr. Usama Al-Gohari, the chairman of the Information and Decision and Support Center. It's my pleasure to invite Mr. Muhammad Abdullah Al-Ali, the CEO of Trends Research and Advisory. The floor is yours, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. It gives me a pleasure to welcome you all, guests and participants, as we meet today in this Arab capital, Cairo, that gives a lot to the development and to the history of survival and of communication. As we meet here today, in Cairo International Book Fair. This is a venue for all intellectuals to meet and discuss in order to give. We meet here today in order to take part in this international book fair, to be in the right place with the product of the intellectuals and the specialized experts in a topic that is really supportive to development, the culture and identity in the age of globalization and knowledge revolution. It is our pleasure that we have this symposium held in cooperation with a center that we share the same endeavor and the same mission to make a fruitful future and good, stable security to humanity, which is the Information and Decision Support Center of the Prime Ministry in Egypt. We do hope that the intellectual centers and research centers should play their role contributing to all that can create a conducive environment with all important inputs towards sustainability of development and deepening up values of coexistence and peace amongst all cultures in order to achieve peace and stability in the world. In light of the technological development and the knowledge revolution, we have an immense mission and responsibility as cultural and as a place for intellectual. We need those research centers to be in the forefront. Of course, this is of a specific importance, especially that it is a quality support to the decision makers, providing them with knowledge and credible information and data on the society they endeavor to develop in order to have the right policies and to identify available alternatives with their cost and their challenges. Dear participants, there are calls to protect cultures and identities against globalization and not to take part in the knowledge revolution. There is always a talk about how bad it is to join globalization. However, this reflects a defensive mechanism resulting from the fragility of identity and culture, even if they don't call for seclusion. However, these are calls that should be refused, and we should respond to by identifying that concepts of culture and identity, and we should really work not to have them static, and they should be a result of mutual influence as a result of the factors that contribute to globalization. If we agree on the target of openness and on the positivity of being in the part of the globalization. However, we should not believe that we have a fragile identity that anything can destroy or have any defensive attitude. We should deal with all issues that can be of public benefit, and we should participate with knowledge and depth. We should admit that there is a relationship between identity and culture on the one hand, and the globalization and knowledge revolution on the other. And this is a mutual relationship at their virtual level. They should contribute to globalization and knowledge revolution in a way that we can have mutual influence. We can say, based on all that, that this mutual relationship cannot be replaced by other relationships, because we cannot make use of the gains of globalization unless we have a space for culture and identity that can approve a relative integration. This is a call for investing the real value of globalization and knowledge revolution. Dear participants, we meet today in our symposium in order to enrich it with the speakers from Egypt, Emirates, and Kuwait, covering the axes of our symposium that shed light on the ideas of this symposium, including culture and identity, and how can we make the best out of that for the best interest of a human being. I'm pretty sure that in this rapidly developing era, and as we are with experts of high caliber, we will contribute to the topic, and we will contribute to the cultural movement that is always the focus of Cairo Book Fair, not at the level of Egypt, but in the space of knowledge in the world at large. Allow me to address my thanks and appreciation to all the kind speakers and intellectuals taking part in this symposium, and our partner, the Information and Decision Support Center in the Cabinet of Egypt. We do hope that we will continue this cooperation in the best interest of knowledge for human beings. I would like to thank you, dear participants. I would like also to address my thanks and appreciation to all those who work at the Trends Research and Advisory and the staff of Information and Decision Support Center. Thank you and Assalamu alaikum. Allow me now to invite Dr. Ali bin Tamim, the chairman of Abu Dhabi Arabic Center, to address us as a keynote speaker. Good times, everybody. God bless you with all the good things that can really contribute to happiness and to what is good. It is a pleasure that we are in such an important symposium in Cairo International Book Fair, together with this gathering of intellectuals and speakers who are concerned with the idea of culture and identity in light of globalization and the knowledge revolution. It's true. And it was really correct when His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Lali at the beginning mentioned that culture and identity are the keys of a human being towards development. If we use the word key, allow me to use the word the knobs or doorknobs when talking about terminology and concepts. Concepts like culture, identity, knowledge revolution perform a particular function. The doorknobs play a particular function as well. Maybe approaching these concepts would be similar to the approach of those who use the doorknob. If they have the right key, they can open the door and get in. Undoubtedly, he will reach inside the depth, as the Republic of Egypt does today in this important international book fair. The title of this symposium brings together 6 terms: culture, identity, globalization, revolution, knowledge. These concepts are very true in this symposium because they explain the status of people and their nature when facing different aspects. The concept of culture, as you all know, is a new concept to the Arab culture. This concept has not been used at Lisan al-Arab, and it wasn't mentioned in the Holy Quran. The researchers are surprised that the concept of identity, as it's becoming very deeply rooted concept, however, they do agree that it is based on a number of axes. It's true that those axes are scientific, developmental, and they are linked to the human being sometimes and to the others sometimes. However, they are, as researchers think, are based on some mythological concepts. Some ask why many die for the idea of identity. Does it come from the deep edge, from the, is it derived from the love, or or from the air? When we discuss the different contexts in the Arab world, we find that some are driven by the identity to some extremism, and they become secluded and separated from others and from the world and from the flow of knowledge. Others think that identity for them has become like air, so they left it and they do not make use of. The identity comes from a new concept that comes to us when the Arabs, and we have with us the chairman of the National Council of Translation. It comes from the identity concept. When the Arabs derived that concept, it is strange that identity is based on the ego. It makes priority the ego, the selfishness. However, the Arabs, when they used the identity, they base it on what is not existing, as if they admit the authority of the absences when they started to make their identity. Allow me at the beginning to mention, and before the dear speakers who will speak after me, allow me now to develop a definition of identity that dates back to the 8th Hijra century, as mentioned in Al-Sharif al-Jurjani book, At-Ta'rifat. Let's see how the definition came in that book. It is the abstract reality that includes the facts fully, as it is the case with the seeds in the trees. It is a concerning definition that is building the identity on an absent reality, and at the same time it endeavors to know the contemporary reality. However, the best way to define the reality even when we talk about the idea of identity is not a very clear concept in its general sense. However, the best way to define it is to learn from some successful experiences. And here we need to mention Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, God bless his soul, who established the United Arab Emirates, and he had a say in understanding the idea of the identity and its basis. In many of his talks, he used and he uh, talked about specificity. He mentioned, I do not want to talk about I don't want to transfer the Bedouin to culture, but I want to transfer culture to the Bedouins. And this is an idea on which the late Sheikh Zayed built the idea of the state to be open to the others, to knowledge, and at the same time to be based on the idea of originality that he valued a lot, also based all that on other values, including the understanding of the history and Arab culture in its cultural legacy and heritage, and also the human heritage, as well as knowing at the same time the Islamic heritage. And in this relationship, on which he based the concept of identity, he based on all that could build the development and the establishment of the UAE based on solid bases that are suitable to be changed continuously. So the idea of identity on that basis is an idea or a concept that should be built on a basis that is open, developing, and not static. And undoubtedly, there are some static elements and some changing elements at the same time. And this is the basis of our symposium. And this is what our symposium tries to analyze. Let me shed light on this concept, and it will be my pleasure to listen to all the speakers when they tackle the topic of this symposium. Thank you all. Dear participants, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. Allow me in the outset to express my pleasure to be here, not because I am only in the presence of experts and intellectuals, but also because we discuss an important topic that is vital in Egypt, Cairo, the beating heart of the Arab world. It has always been a fortress to preserve our identity, even in light of the knowledge revolution and all that globalization came with. We know that we based our work on the idea of bringing together nations. However, this led to many discrepancies and conflicts amongst the Arab nations and sometimes inside the same society. However, we consider this as a reality and a fact that we should make use of its positive aspect, such as the knowledge revolution already mentioned in the title of this symposium, without losing our identity and our cultural specificity. That is our fortress. The symposium with these well-known speakers wouldn't have been possible had it not been for all the efforts exerted by two Arab distinctive institutions. First, the Information and Decision Support Center in the Egyptian cabinet, and second, the Trends Research and Advisory. It is an Emirati institution that we consider today an Arab and a beacon that we are proud of in the Arab world. It works and became really well known amongst the different research world centers. I appreciate the efforts of both institutions. This symposium with all the axes that will be discussed today, frankly and openly. We think that it includes all the issues related to the topic of this symposium. On the first axis, we will discuss the issue of globalization and the multicultural identities. This is a challenge. That we should discuss as we have different cultural identities, especially those who talk about the supremacy of the one identity, and we know them. In light of the globalization of politics and economics, this wouldn't have been possible had it not been for a national identity that can really act with the knowledge revolution, with openness and flexibility that can really attend to all attacks that try to deny the other. This wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the existence of an original identity that faces this world of communication with flexibility, agility, and openness, facing the philosophy that negate the presence of others. On a topic in this symposium is the national identity and how it is integrated and how it is distinctive, how it is integrated with the world identity and all the common elements that bring us together without undermining the national identities. This could happen thanks to our belief in the multiple cultural identity that can communicate with the other without dissolving itself into it. Another topic in our symposium is an attempt to develop a national agenda. In order to identify the mechanisms to face the negative aspects of the cultural globalizations. This is our way of dealing with those who want to seclude us and seclude themselves from the world. I mean the Arab identity that we all are proud of, and we endeavor to increase the common elements that our Arab identity has with the world identity and different world people's identities. It is my pleasure now to invite our first guest, Mr. Usama Al Johari. Sorry, Mr. Hisham Azmi, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Culture in Egypt. He will discuss the challenges of the digital revolution. In the name of God, I start. Dear participants, dear guests from the United Arab Emirates, the sisterly country, good evening, everybody. Allow me in the outset to address my thanks and appreciation to the Information and Decision Support Center affiliated to the Prime Ministry of Egypt, represented by Mr. Osama Al Johari, and Trent's Research and Advisory in the United Arab Emirates, represented by Excellency Dr. Muhammad Abdullah Al Ali, for inviting me to take part in this important symposium. I address them with my thanks for choosing the topic of this symposium. My talk will focus on the digital revolution and the challenges related to identity and culture. The challenges are old. Actually, the topic is an old new one because all that is witnessed by human culture and civilization, the innovations and the development in each of the stations were subject to some concerns as a result of the unknown future. It happened with the radio, with the TV, and other inventions. And if we go a little bit further in history, the Egyptian legend between Amun and Tahuti, when Tahuti approached Amun with his invention of the inscription for writing, Amun was fearful and he was reserved. And he asked him not to disseminate it amongst people because people will appear as they know, but actually they wouldn't know, and they will talk and they will make noise, and the outcome will be that many of those who claim to have knowledge will talk and nobody will listen. So this is a legend, an old Egyptian legend. It's not a true story. However, it stresses that these concerns and challenges are very ancient, and they came into different phases in different times of history. At the beginning of those who give attention to the challenges of globalization, Dr. Nabil Ali. Dr. Nabil Ali actually wrote two books. First, العرب وعصر المعلومات, the Arabs and the IT era in 1994, and this is عالم المعرفة in Kuwait, the publisher. The second book, which is closer actually to the topic of our symposium, is entitled The Arab Culture and the Age of Knowledge, and it was published in 2001. Both books are old. However, the concerns and the challenges mentioned by Dr. Nabil Ali in both books are still the same, even when they were written before the social media and the digital revolution and before the metaverse. He expressed concerns about what the age of information would bring, because the term digital transformation was not used at the time when those two books were published. Allow me to say that in this book, Dr. Nabil Ali mentioned that this expected IT revolution comes with lots of talks about ends and about some post era. He talked about the end of the place and the end of time, the end of history, the end of a state, the end of a school, the end of library. He also talked about what is after or post revolution, post industry, post modernity, post politics, post writing, post school, post museum. And there are other aspects he talked about, those that are between the ends and what is post. For example, factories without workers, schools without teachers, vehicles without drivers, libraries without shelves. Actually, this is quite an important approach and vision, because it predicted that there were concerns regarding the ends to some phenomena that are almost getting close to the end, and some post aspects, because it was expected from this unknown. And this is a paradox, actually, that there is a preference of what is unknown at the expense of what is known and what is the present, because what is in the present is lacking some aspects. And he talked about also what is in between the ends and what is post, because he admitted having a phenomena. However, he did not talk about the main characteristics when you have vehicles without drivers. So there is an admission that there is a phenomena, but this phenomena now is without a main aspect. In the case of driverless, or in case of vehicles, for example, they are without drivers. So we talked about the digital age, and there are many phenomena. And to save time, I wouldn't go into details of what's surrounding us today. We live in a digital world, and everything that is around us indicates that we are impacted on a daily basis, but rather instantly, with the repercussions of technology and digital revolution, everything becoming smart, smart home, smart car, smartphone, even talk about smart society and the smart citizen or digital citizen. Digital citizen is the citizen who deals with the applications of modern technology in his daily life. The digital revolution did not come out of a sudden. It starts, or it came with phases, with the internet that we didn't know at the time, ultranet, in the 50s of the 20th century, until it becomes an internet. Then some applications such as Cooper. It was one of the search engines, then the multimedia, and then the web at the beginning of the 90s of the 20th century. Then the integration between the text and the sound and what is optical, and then the emergence of social media. And finally, last October, the announcing of metaverse. Metaverse. Dr. Nabil Ali did not know that in 2021, Mark will announce the metaverse, and I will come back to the metaverse. So these are different phases until we reach what we are now. These were logic waves building on what is existing. You know, the innovations, some are reform and some are radical innovations. Most of what is done are reforming inventions, and maybe the social media can be approached from the radical terminology, because it came as complete innovation. And what is an innovation is that a human being, after existing as a consumer of information, he or she has become a producer of information. Have I taken all my time? I still have 10 minutes, or my 10 minutes came to an end? Dr. Ali talked about identity. What I wanted to talk about citizenship and digital citizenship. However, let me talk now, if I may, about the cultural identity. The cultural identity is the product, and it is quite to differentiate between culture and the cultural identity. Also, we can differentiate between them on a linguistic level. However, the meaning is the same. It is the influence of the human being with what is surrounding him and being impacted by what is surrounding him. This is different from self-identity that is carried by the data of each individual, reaching the collective identity, etc. We have a digital identity now, because when we are on social media, for example, we produce information, and we also place personal information that can be misused in order to identify, or can be used actually to identify some personal characteristics. Let me mention in 2013, the Berkeley University of California uh, endeavored to analyze the personal information carried on Facebook, and try through comments and and the responses and the preferences, they try to come out with some indications of racial knowledge, sport, preferences. The idea was to prepare the file of characteristics, and then to have face-to-face with those individuals, and to match the results reached by the data, the information from the social media pages, and what they say. You see the identity, it was 76% identical results. So it's a 76% possibility of knowing somebody from what he posts on social media channels without meeting him. Hopefully during the discussion, I will have the time to talk about some other aspect. The metaverse recently announced. Mark Zuckerberg was really smart. 2 months earlier, there was a cut of 6 hours that put the whole world at a complete standstill. And you know the results. The metaverse is a newcomer that will carry new data. We have the artificial intelligence, and we have another important factor, that you will not be alone, but you will have uh, uh, another one of you, the avatar. How can we control the avatar or the avatar? What are the psychological impacts and the impact on the moral system? What is the impact from legal perspective? If your avatar committed a crime, for example, who is going to be responsible? So there are many questions. that produce some challenges. However, there are some positive aspects. So it's not all pessimistic situation. There are some positive aspects that can be made use of. Let's wait and see. Thank you. Microphone, sir, please. There will be time during the discussion to discuss some of the points mentioned by you, Doctor. Sorry, we cannot hear the speaker. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Dr. Ali, you were right when you started your talk talking about some conceptual issues, talking about concepts that became thorny and difficult to be defined. Globalization is one of these difficult concepts that can be with different readings and different explanations. And we are expected to have a stand regarding globalization. Today, the 29th of January, on the 26th of January, there is a movement against globalization. It is called anti-globalization movement. I think in order to understand globalization, we need to go back to 1999 at the peak uh, of the development of World Trade Organization in the meeting held by WTO in the United States. There was the announcement of anti-globalization movement. Today, globalization presents itself as an economic and transboundary trade movement with the aim of eliminating borders between the producer and the consumer. And then it developed. I think the decision makers in the capital world realized that it is not possible to practice any a trade activity without culture, without a welcoming environment. For example, jeans cannot be exported to a country that does not accept to wear jeans. So globalization created a pattern of society acceptance and some sort of structured thinking. Moreover, it creates values and ethics that are called global ethics. This all facilitated the acceptance of the commercial product. Thus, globalization becoming a cultural product. Uh, I personally do not like to have a negative attitude towards a global phenomenon. However, I would like to deal with globalization or any other concept. From a personal perspective, I can say that globalization aims at dissolving national identities to the extent that some thinkers say that it is a new form of colonialism. However, I wouldn't that pessimistic in approaching globalization. I can say that there is, I would say, a globalized pole that tries to detect its way of life and its lifestyle on others. This globalization leads me to an important topic that is really influential, and Emirates work on it. As you all know, Emirates presents itself as a country of coexistence and tolerance. What has this to do with the globalization? Many think when hearing those slogans, they think that it is some sort of luxury. However, let's look at that within the context of our topic, which is globalization, the importance of tolerance and coexistence. Emirates believe in. I can talk about 4 issues that are there to deal with the globalization. First, accepting the specificities at a time when globalization tries to have one color of the whole world, tolerance and coexistence start with accepting the cultural specificities of races, religions, and others. Second, sustaining cultural diversity and investing it. Third, having the culture or disseminating the culture of teamwork and joint work. Fourth, the dialogue. The dialogue amongst the uh, those who are not like you, or the different-minded people. And this is related to all identities, the racial identity, the cultural identity, and others. This all would make me to understand the others, and it would lead to approaching coexistence. Countries should consider, uh, as we live today in the era of Corona, I would consider what I talked about as the vaccine to live, necessary to live in those times. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sultan. You mentioned the message and mission of the United Arab Emirates, and it is a new mission in the new globalization. I will address you with a question regarding the United Arab Emirates. When we come to the discussion, I would like to invite Engineer Jum'a Mbarak Lejnebi, an ex-ambassador of Emirates. Go ahead, please, sir. The floor is yours. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to address my thanks to the organizers of this important symposium, whether from Information and Decision Support Center in Egypt, chaired by the chairman of the center. Sorry, we cannot hear the speaker. We do apologize for not being able to hear the speaker. His microphone is not working. I think the gentleman is talking about the sisterly relationships between Emirates and Egypt. I would like to discuss today the issue of a global citizenship and its relationship to the national identity. This requires certain concepts, especially global identity concept is disseminating now in the education field, starting with UNESCO publishing uh, the document of the Sustainable Development Goals until 2030. It refers to the openness and to the sense of belonging to the international community and the interest of the human community. There are many definitions that can be given to the term global identity. It is the sense of belonging to a broader society, which is the society of human beings at large. And it is characterized by different linkages between what is local, national, and global towards a world that is peaceful and fair and just. We can say that global citizenship is based on three axes. First, considering the earth as a homeland of everybody that should be protected. Second, all humans are one family with mutual respect and common existence. The third is the respect of the cultural specificities of peoples and societies. Within the same context, all the global challenges facing humanity at large, such as environmental and climate challenges, poverty, unemployment, violation of human rights, armed conflicts, these are all looked at as joint and common challenges that we all should face as international community, officially and not officially. We should deepen also the principles of global citizenship. There are six principles. First, international peace or world peace. This principle is represented in disseminating security and peace in the world and solving all conflicts peacefully. Second, human rights. It is based on recognizing the human rights of all peoples. And third, democracy. And it is dependent on the participation of all in governance on the basis of justice and respect of other opinions. Fourth, the multicultural based on mutual respect of nations of the world and respect of cultural diversity. And we should respect the cultural diversity. Five, interaction between the human being and the environment, and it is represented by living in a secure and healthy environment. Six is the scientific and technological development, and we mean by this all humanity should enjoy the fruits of the scientific revolution and technology. From this perspective, we can say that there is no clash nor conflict between what is national and what is global. I don't see any contradiction. The global citizenship endeavors to make people feel that they belong to the family of humanity. They should have compassion and respect and taking active procedures at the level of national and global aspects. And of course, the national identity can be achieved at the level of one nation. This is an interpretation of feeling a national identity, love of the homeland, and sense of belonging to a homeland, together with committing to the rules and laws of the society. This means that the positive citizenship inside any society or any state contributes to achieving what the global citizenship endeavors to achieve, because the international community is the result of all national societies coming together. When we talk about negative aspects, such as dictating policies or penalties on some countries on the pretext that they are not committing to the principles of global identity, especially when using terms such as violation of human rights, because this is contradicting the global identity that is based on the respect of cultural specificity of all peoples of the world. We need to make sure that there is a cultural identity and diversity as a general characteristic without having any hierarchy of any society at the expense of other societies. In the United Arab Emirates, my country represents an example to countries that believe in positive and good citizenship, with the integration of the objectives to achieve global citizenship, especially enhancing development, stability, and global development. Emirates work with policies and initiatives to enhance the internal identity and at the same time supports the international efforts that aim at creating a positive global citizen who is very keen on the stability and peace of all humanity, respecting all religions and cultures within a framework of cultural and intellectual multiplicity and diversity inside the Emirates. Emirates is an example of coexistence as the people are committed to the leadership, and also in turn the leadership is working in order to provide prosperity to the people. And we can tell that the Emirati people are very happy and one of the most or the happiest nations in the world. At the same time, we can talk about achieving objectives of positive global citizenship, including, as mentioned by Dr. Sultan, Abu Dhabi Declaration of fraternity declared during the visit of the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, and the Imam of Al-Azhar. This is a quality development in understanding the concept of tolerance and understanding the identity. Of course, having different identities and cultures is a reality that we cannot overlook, and this should make humanity all behind a tolerant culture that believes in cultural diversity as a basis for coexistence amongst peoples of the world, and to work together in order to face the common challenges facing humanity in an atmosphere of tolerance and acceptance of others. What we endeavor to have and we believe in is the global citizenship with different identities, more tolerant and more respectful of others and more open to others. We endeavor to be integrated in the world society without losing our national specificity. We have many common elements. We can use them in order to have a society that is more stable and an environment that is more sustainable and a more open person. Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Jum'a Mubarak Al-Junaybi. We can talked about other aspects during the discussion. Dr. Muhammad Afifi, the professor of contemporary history at Cairo University, to tell us about the identity and history. Let me, in the outset, address my thanks to Information and Decision Support Center in the Egyptian Prime Ministry, Dr. Al Jouhari, and the Trends Research and Advisory Chair by Dr. Al Ali for organizing this symposium. I would say this important meeting. It is an important topic. Why? We at Cairo International Book Fair and now discuss the issue of identity in a changing world. It means that there are concerns in this region, the region of the Arab world or the Arab nation. Let me discuss the topic from a historical approach as a historian. As many of the speakers talked about, the identity is a changing, in a changing world. This is something positive, contrary to the idea that says that the identity is static throughout history. It's not correct. Let me prove that we have the European pattern or model. I will discuss very quickly issues related to the Arab world after talking about the European model, and then I will conclude what I would say the identity of food. And this is something really big. I will abide by the time allocated for me, Mr. Chairman. The European model, those who see the First and Second World Wars, they will recognize that the two countries behind these two wars were Germany and France. Germany occupied Paris more than one time, to the extent that the French identity at that time suffered of many problems. German occupation of Paris. After the Second World War, there were big changes taking place in Europe, and both countries who established the European Union are the same, Germany and France. Millions from both countries died. Changes in the political identity. I asked a French colleague, asking him, after all these wars, you have a European Union, and with Germany, he said, it's the future. We have the European Union for the sake of the future. Germany and France are the two countries that protect and sustain the European Union despite the issues resulting from Corona. In France, there is a big debate about the identity of France and what is the French identity, having the right in France, the rightist movement. The response to this movement by the end of the 90s, when the French football league won the World Cup. In France, they say that half of the football team is not French. and they say that Zainuddin Zidane and Isabel Adjani, the best player and the best actress, are not French originally. So that was quite important in the development of the identity. Had we had time, I would have talked about shifting Arabization or the concept of Arabization from those who can speak Arabic to the cultural status. However, I wouldn't discuss this issue. Let me talk now about the changes in the Egyptian identity. We as Egyptians, we are always characterized as peasants. Uh, who are settled in their land and they are in their village, and we do not like to travel, to migrate. However, there are changes taking place in the Egyptian society. The idea of migration and travel. We have in the Proverbs, there is a proverb that means walk for a whole year and don't cross a canal. This is an indication that you should stay in your country and do not cross the water to go to another country. This is the identity, the character of the Egyptian farmer who likes to stay in his land. However, now with the idea of migration and Egyptians migrating to other countries, there are many changes, unprecedented changes. It changes also on the Arab level. As a historian, I say that modernity covers some changes you cannot see. We have many challenges. What's happening in Lebanon, the demonstrations that go beyond the sect, the religious sects. What is happening in Lebanon now, something that goes beyond sectarianism. This is happening also in Iraq. Iraq is built on a sectarian system, but there is a new political identity that is developing. I think it will succeed, but after many difficulties. The last point I would like to talk about is the food identity. It's quite important. There is a proverb in Arabic that means eat whatever you like. Sorry, wear what people like, but eat what you like. In history, the human can change his religious identity. Egypt, for example, during the pharaohs moved to Christianity and then to Islam. So might change your religion and your clothes. In Greece, for example, they did so. However, the food identity is one of the most difficult identities to be changed. I'll give you an example. Ending my talk. Japan changed its constitution after the Second World War. But up till now, the Japanese, when sitting at the table, they still eat the rice and the sake. France entered the EU, and however, at the table, the baguette, the cheese, and the wine, these are basics and essentials in the world, in the Arab world. The pattern of food and eat is quite important. How to use your hand to eat. Even in Egypt, we eat ملوخية with our fingers. So the pattern of food is the most difficult to be changed. You can change the political and even the religious identity. Even Iran, some think that it is Shia since the beginning of Islam. No, it became Shia or Shiite starting the 16th century only. So I would like to say that the identity is renewed we are in the process of big changes. I think they will lead uh, the world or the Arab world to different status. I really like that we focus on the cultural identity because it is the future and it has supremacy over political or any other identities. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. You took us to the Arabization, to the minorities, and this is an issue that might take a whole symposium. Let me move to Mr. Hamad Al-Ka'bi, the editor-in-chief of Al-Ittihad, the Emirati daily, who will talk about the role of the union in activating the identity and the role of the media. And he is an editor-in-chief. Thank you and salamu alaikum. Thank you for the organizers. I would like specifically to thank Mr. Ali bin Tamim, despite being really very busy and he has to travel. However, he insisted on being in this symposium and be the keynote speaker. Let me very quickly talk about the media. Joseph Jobless say, give me a media without conscience, I would give you people or a nation without mind. I would say that the media is quite important for all different forms of the society, everything. It is culture. I do not want to talk about the importance of media. I think everybody realizes this importance and the importance of culture. From our experience as Emiratis, we have many experiences that enhance our national identity despite the cultural diversity in Emirates and having in Emirates 200 nationalities that are different in their religions, in their languages, in their behavior. Despite all that, we find that the national identity of Emiratis is protected and preserved. Some practical steps in the media to enhance cultural identity. For example, in 2017, our wise leadership in Emirates announced a whole year to be the year of doing good. Amil Khair. This is part of the Emirati identity. 2017, our wise leadership announced the whole year, the year of Sheikh Zayed. As you know, the personality of the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, is part and parcel of the identity of Emirates. It was an opportunity to celebrate the founding father of Emirates. And it was an opportunity for the Emirati media to present the achievements of our father and to enhance the identity and what been achieved in development and empowerment. The Emirati media, for example, focus on success stories in many fields, including, for example, when we launched the probe Hope to March, that was with the idea of having an Emirati Arab identity through this important event, sending a probe to March. Some issues mentioned by Dr. Sultan. In 2019, the Emirati media presented a knowledge content on tolerance and positive communication amongst different followers of different religions in a way that would have tolerance as an important component in Emirati culture. Now, the fraternity document signed on the 4th of February 2019 is an important component that deepens up the openness in the Emirati identity. In October 2021, an unprecedented event as the world is facing COVID pandemic, we started Expo as an international platform of communication with others for a better future for humanity. And the Expo slogan is the communication of minds and making of the future. Of course, 193 countries participating in this Expo deepens up the positive thinking and a new pattern of facing the challenges. COVID pandemic was another example of enhancing the identity. The Emirati media focus immensely at different media organizations the same messages in order to face the pandemic through the Emirati identity. The media and the culture make the identity focusing on the achievements and recalling to minds the deeds of the founders and the great people who built our identity and our culture. Of course, we need to be ambitious and not to stop working and no impossible. We should endeavor. This is our slogan as Emirates in the past 50 years and in the coming 50 years. Thank you. Thank you. We will have a question on the changing identity, especially when having many nationalities living. You mentioned 200 nationalities living in Emirates. What is the impact? I will address you with such a question after. Uh, I would like also to say that participants can address questions. However, I do have some comments on some of the words mentioned or some of the presentations. They said we have only 10 minutes before the end. The first question, Dr. Hisham, please briefly, you mentioned the digital citizen. What do you mean? The digital citizen is the citizen who deals with all the products of digital revolution in different parts of his life, communicating with others, implementing some government procedures, even some health aspects. We have many positive aspects, and I fully agree with the speakers, especially what been mentioned by Dr. Muhammad Afifi, that the cultural identity is changing. However, it is more stable than the digital identity. The generations that deal today with the social media or with the digital shift and digital revolution, they are more stable, whereas the new generations have more readiness to change. However, they have less immunity, I would say. The digital citizen has some challenges related to the rapid continuous change in the digital environment. And he has problems because he deals with a virtual reality in many aspects, and the expressions of emotions is completely different from what is in real life. We have emotions, expressions, emojis, and others. We haven't found so far any alternatives to their emotions that people have towards each other in real life. Dr. Sultan, why fearing the exchanges? We have the smartphone today, and there is also the saying that we fear globalization would change our identity, our culture. Why still talking about fear of globalization? It's an important question. Let me start where Dr. Afifi ends. He mentioned throughout history there has been a change, but not the change of food. Even food changes today. I disagree with you on that issue. There are three categories: fine dining, casual dining, and fast food. Uh, we can talk about fast food in China, uh, a big impact and influence of globalization. And this influence is reflected on strategic plans. For example, the G20 group presents itself as the countries that have the strongest influence. Another project, which is the Silk Road from China. These are all real concerns and an attempt to build an influencing pole. It is a reaction to globalization. China, for example, to be a pole, or the US to be a pole to control. What is the denominator here? It is the economic interest, or Mr. Abdul Masqsood addressed a question, as there is a cultural invasion by some non-Arab countries that are neighboring the Arab region. How can we achieve integration in order to face the common challenges? This is a good question, actually. I talked about global citizenship as part of respecting cultures. One of the principles of global citizenship is to recognize that there are different cultures that should be, and differences in the cultures that should be respected. The human rights, for example, as a principle. If you are committed to global citizenship, it doesn't mean that you should adhere completely to the principle of human rights. We should recognize, of course, cultural centers play an important role. And I know in Emirates and in Egypt, there are centers that focus on highlighting the national identity and clarifying the global identity in terms of respecting others. I move now to Mr. Muhammad Afifi. You talked about the changing identity throughout history. I know it's a big topic and it takes time, but my question is, are human beings by nature a changing matter? Yes, they are. geography and history influence people. It takes time, of course, to explain that. I gave the example of Egypt, that people of Egypt did not like to travel. They did not like to migrate. They want always to be in their country. But this has changed, and many countries, Lebanon. Most of the demonstrations in Lebanon were by Christians and Shia. In Iraq, the demonstrations were in the Shia areas because they want to go beyond sectarianism and other sects were there. It is quite important to see the Shia were participating in these demonstrations to go beyond sectarianism. The role of the media, you mentioned the culture. Which culture we talk about? Is it the Western culture, the American culture? Whose culture? Is it our culture? What culture? We talk specifically if there is a fear of the identity in Emirates. We have experiences that we live daily. If we talk about 84,000 square kilometers, having 200 nationalities, this is the area of Emirates, and still to have the Emirati identity that is enhanced through cultural and social initiatives, aiming at enhancing the Emirati style and Emirati way of life. We have 200 nationalities, and the Emirati song, for example, reaches many. There are other examples. The Emirati way of life, the Emirati way of thinking, the positive influence on the surrounding countries. These are all Emiratis. We would like to conclude this symposium by thanking all the participants. I would like specifically to thank Mr. Usama Al Jawhari, the Assistant of the Prime Minister and the Chairman of the Information and Decision Support Center for the good hospitality and good organization. I would like to thank all my brothers, Mr. Al Mulla, Mr. Jum'a Mbarak Al Junaibi, he is one of the experts at trends, and Mr. Muhammad Afifi. I would like also to thank Sultan bin Faisal Al-Rumaithi. I would like to thank Dr. Hisham Azmi, who joined us recently, and we are honored to know you and to be with you. I would like also to thank Mr. Hamad Al-Ka'bi, my partner in these conferences and symposia we organize, whether inside Emirates or outside. I thank you all, dear participants, for the organizers and for Trends, and those who work at Trends, and those who work at Information Decision and Support Center. Thank you all.